Yo, my people, welcome to Comfy Cozy Neoetry. Today, I just wanted to share with y'all all of the crochet patterns that I've designed this year, and also just some of the tips / a little bit of my process of how I design my patterns. So just as a little background, by the time you're seeing this, I'll have been crocheting for 11 months. As I'm recording this, it's 5 days until I can actually say that. But I think I designed my first patterns in like August or September of 2023. And also I mainly do amigurumi, so I do plushies, as you can probably clearly see. But one of my patterns is not amigurumi, so that's why I didn't say like amigurumi patterns only. But we start with my cozies. My cozies, or at least the ones I have so far, are my very first pattern. This, the bunny specifically, was the very first one that I did at all. There she is in all her glory, flappy ear and whatnot. And this one took me a few tries. Like the one I have sitting over there is actually the very first one I made, but the ears were not to my satisfaction. So that is definitely one thing that happens a lot in the pattern designing area. And then after the big bunny, I made the baby bunny. I love the babies so much. So you can see how it's like similar, but also unique. And also the sprout on both the big ones and the small ones are optional. And my idea for the cozies started out with just the big ones, but then as I was making it, I think I just thought like, oh my gosh, imagine if I can make a smaller version, and then I did. But along with the bunny, we also have the bear. And here is the very first bear cozy that I made. And this one is special because I did eventually embroider a daisy on it, but that's not part of the pattern. But yeah, I have a specific like line that explains what cozies are. Let's see, I think I have it here. Cozies are huggable plushies crafted with loving hands to bring coziness into your life. I wanted to make it big enough that you could like actually like hug it and, you know, feel that comfort and coziness. And so they are kind of bigger. They're not like huge. If you made it in jumbo yarn, it would be absolutely ginormous, but they're huggable, they're cozy, and they're also cozy to crochet, because if you're someone who loves like those rounds that are all single crochets, there's a lot of that in these. And so you can just like turn your brain off, put a movie on or a show or a podcast or whatever, and just crochet for days, and it's awesome. I love it. Cozy to make, cozy to have. And then after the big bear, we have the baby bear. Cozy. I love it. And I've made this with size 6 super bulky yarn, but also 7 jumbo yarn. And there, that one is. Yeah, the babies are also really cozy to make. They're quick, simple makes. These are my comfort crochet projects, the baby cozies, both the bunny and the bear. And for my cozies, I'm hoping that they will be like a line and a continuation. Like I'm gonna make more of them. The very next pattern I'm working on is actually gonna be another cozy, or I'm hoping it will be. Oh, and if you wanna see my mistakes, here is, I think this was the very first baby bunny cozy I made. Not a fan. Look at that ear. Terrible. I was hoping to make it no-sew. That's where the ears are different, but then I just decided, you know what? We'll just make it low-sew, and that was the end of that. I just realized I had my earphones in and I really didn't need to. I'm not gaming today. But my next pattern was an acorn. I was hoping to make it like specifically like an acorn pillow pattern, and so I got this yarn to make it, right? But then I decided I wasn't fully happy with it, and I didn't have enough to make another one. So then I made a smaller version with size 6 yarn. This is size 7 jumbo yarn, and this was the final result. So this is really the pattern. This one's not quite right. It's mostly right. It's just the color change area is a bit different. But this is a free pattern actually that I have on my Instagram account, and also the video tutorial is on this channel. And with this pattern, I just love fall, and I really wanted to make a pattern of my own that was like fall inspired. And so I was like trying to think of like what hasn't been done, and I hadn't seen any like acorn plush patterns. And that's the thing. And then after the acorn comes my purse, the one non-amigurumi pattern that I've made. And this one I made because for probably years I've been needing a purse or something, because I got rid of a ton of them years ago that I had, and I only really have one that I use, and it doesn't match with everything. So I've been needing a purse, and then when I started crochet I was like, wait, I can make myself one, and then I eventually did. I just made my own pattern for it. And this is called the M purse, like E-M-M-E, the name M, because that name means universal. And for me, for this purse, it literally fits, let me show you, my phone. It's nicely in there. And then, you know, you can see that there's space for, like, I have a really little wallet, so there's space in there for that, and then keys as well. And then my wireless earphones, Bluetooth earphones, fit in the front pouch. That is exactly what the front pouch is made for. So it's just the perfect purse to like put all your essentials in if you're going out of the house, and therefore it's universal because I think it'd be useful for everybody. So those are all of my released patterns. I have a pattern that I just finished up that is not released yet, and then I'm working on a mod. So let me show you all love that. So I've had this idea in my head to do my own type of mushroom pattern for a long time. I had one idea, but then I decided I didn't really like it. And then I came up with another idea. And this was the prototype, so to speak. It's not perfect because you'll see the second one I did, the brown yarn is a little bit different. It makes the cap more like defined and separated from the body a little bit more. But I still love this guy, but I love like the second iteration better. And like I'm gonna keep both patterns in my like back pocket. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be selling them or sharing the pattern yet, just because I haven't seen much interest in it. So I might just keep this one for myself. And if people want to buy the finished plushies from me, then they definitely can. And I love making them because they are no-sew and they're so adorable. But this is the first one, the big one. And as you can see, they have a sprout. Oh, this sprout actually isn't right because I did redo that, which you'll see on the other ones. So that's also not quite right. So this one's kind of not right in a few places, but it is a pretty good representation of what the correct one of this size would be. And then I think the second iteration is actually probably my favorite plushie I've ever designed. Here she is. Oh my goodness. I absolutely love this smaller version. I pretty much stare at this at least once a day since I've made it. I don't know if you can tell very well, but the sprout is just more symmetrical. There's only one little difference that I made to it to make it look a bit more symmetrical. So that's the first one I made of this size. And then I also made this one in chenille yarn. Like this is normal like chenille home slim from Michaels. And then this one is in Bernat blanket. They're a little bit different and the shaping looks so different. Like this one doesn't look as curvaceous, so to speak, as this one. Like this one's kind of more curvy on the body, I feel like. Where this one feels more just like boom, straight to the point, if that makes sense. But I love these guys so much. If you do want me to like sell these patterns or anything, let me know and maybe I will. But yeah, you can see how the like hat of the mushroom on this one is a little bit more defined. Like it pops out more from the body, if that makes sense. It's not fully just like a continuation onto the body, which like the other one is kind of like that. And then lastly, I am in the middle of making a modification for my bear cozy. So again, that's this one. And I'm modifying it because I realized my son loves panda bears. I made him a panda bear plushie for his birthday this year. And then I was like, wait, I could make you a panda bear plushie from my pattern and it'd be like bigger and more huggable, especially for a 3-year-old. And so I am in the middle of making that. I feel like it looks a little scary at this stage, but I think it's gonna work out well. By the end of this video, you'll see the finished product. But yeah, this will be a free mod, but of course you have to like buy the original pattern in order to then utilize the mod. And I'll post that to Instagram when I'm done with it. So those are all the patterns I've created this year and so far in general. Now onto my tips for creating patterns and mainly just my process and how I create my own patterns. So this right here is my handy dandy pattern writing notebook. It started as a wedding planning notebook, but then I didn't use much of it at the time years ago. So all of these tips will make more sense if you have like a dedicated notebook for writing your patterns in. And of course, if you have like a handheld device or something of the sort that works for you, then that works too. But that's just my suggestion. I just think writing it actually with pen and paper or pencil and paper is much easier. So the first step of my process is I sketch out what I want my pattern to look like. And you might not be very good at drawing because I'm definitely not. It doesn't have to be a perfect sketch, but it's going to help you to remember the elements that you want to have in your pattern. And then you can also like make little notes like, oh, if you draw like an arm, you can say sewn on or find a way to make no sew or something like that. Just having those notes on the separate parts can be really helpful too. And for me, even though I do this, I'm not strict on the final product looking like my sketch. Most of the time it doesn't, because the way I do it is I will try out what I think will work, and sometimes it doesn't actually work for producing what I sketched, but I like what it did produce, so then I still just stick with what I actually physically made versus what the sketch looked like. Kind of like a happy accident. Once I sketch it out, the next step is to free write the beginning of the pattern, and this will usually be maybe like the first 5-ish rounds of the pattern, because I usually have an idea in my head of how the pattern is going to start, and so I will just write that down, and then I go on to the next step, number 3, strategy of testing and writing out more and testing as you go. So after writing out those like 5 rounds, I will finally get my hook and yarn and try out those rounds and see if we're happy with it. If we're happy with it, then we keep going. If we're not happy, you just feel free to frog and erase in the notebook, and then you might have an idea of like, okay, this is how it's going to be fixed. Then you test it out. If it works, write it down. And usually when what I have written so far, I'm happy with it, I will have an idea of like how to continue on for maybe the next few rounds or so. And so I might write all of that down, especially if I'm like very confident that, you know, my idea for the next part will work. I will write it down and then go forward with that. But sometimes it's like, okay, I think this is what's going to happen next. So then I test it out, and if it works, then I'll write it down and add it. So this step is just a whole process of testing what was written or just testing something and then writing it in as like probably the final product of the pattern. But yeah, most important thing about this step is do not be afraid to frog or erase and try again. And then the next step, step number 4, might sound similar, but it's to start over potentially. And it sounds similar, but it's not exactly similar because sometimes I won't realize until I am done with the whole entire plushie that I don't like something. More so what it probably is that I settle and I say, you know what, that's fine. And I just keep going with it. And I think, you know, it's fine. And then I close it off, I do everything. And then I'm like, you know what? No, that's not fine. I don't like it. Or, you know, it's nagging at me like, that one thing that needs to change. You gotta change it. You know, but like, I don't want to change it because that means I have to, you know, maybe start over. But trust me, if you have that nagging voice in your head, just start over, because then you'll be so happy when you have the final product that you are happy with and that nagging voice is gone from your head. Sometimes though, you don't have to start over completely. For my bear cozy, for example, where did I put it? I think I put it back over here. The reason that this is the very first one I made isn't because I did it perfectly at first. It's because I had a whole different ear situation that I thought was gonna work, but it didn't. And so I had to cut them off because I could, because they're sewn on. And then I just reworked it and then sewed these ones onto here. So with the bunny, because of the way that it's made, I couldn't do that. And so I had to, you know, make a whole fresh new one. But sometimes you're able to just cut a piece off if it's just like a sewn on piece or something, or something that you add after the fact, like blush or nose or something like that. And then you just redo that one part and then try again. And then you are left with a really cute plushie that you're happy with. Because I'm telling you, this bear, I didn't envision it being as cute as it is. But like, I think because of the ears being the way that they are, it's even cuter than I expected it to be. Imagine as I'm saying all these steps, you're actually doing them. The next step in the process that I wrote down here in my notes is, yay, you finally made your own pattern. Woohoo, congratulations. But if you want to sell or like post your pattern for free anywhere, then it might be a good idea to host a pattern test. And a pattern test just allows other crocheters to receive your pattern for free, for one thing, but then they help you to fix any mistakes, any typos, and also to like literally test the pattern to see if it works for them, if they understand it, if it's clear, and things like that, so that it's perfected, so that when you do like release it to the general public, it's clear, easy to understand, makes sense, isn't like frustrating or anything like that. It's kind of like proofreaders in a way, and they're literally proofreading and also like proof making it, so it's perfect. And then of course, in order to do that, you'd have to like actually create a file for the pattern. So you'd have to, you know, type up the pattern that you've written down, because you have to give it to the testers, and then you eventually have to post it somewhere to sell or somewhere for people to see. And for me, I use Canva for that, whether that's a PDF file that I'm going to sell like on Etsy or an Instagram post. Oh, I just remembered another tip actually, y'all. The very first thing I should have said was to ideate in your head, because the thing about making your own pattern is it really should be your own original idea. And this may be a bit of a controversial opinion, or I don't know, but for me, it's a little bit weird when I see people like releasing patterns that already exist. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there are like variations that like clearly make it your own, but there's some that look just like every other one, and it's like, why are you making your own pattern? I don't know. So anyway, my tip is to just ideate, come up with your own idea, and really you should be working fresh every step of the way. Of course, if you're making your own patterns, most likely you've read a lot and made a lot of other patterns before. It's kind of hard to make a pattern if you haven't like seen one or done one yourself. And so like you were probably getting inspiration on like how to do certain things from different patterns, but you shouldn't like have other people's patterns up, looking at them, referencing them as you're making your pattern. It should be your own fresh idea. Another reason why sketching it out is good, because then you're getting the idea onto paper, and then also just like visually seeing it, because you can't visually see it with crochet immediately, but it's faster with sketching it out. You can kind kind of see like, okay, this kind of just looks like everything else I've seen. And then it's like, okay, maybe that's not what I need to do, or maybe I can like rework it a little bit to make it my own. There's a standard way to make a circle in crochet, right? And especially with amigurumi. And so a lot of patterns start out the exact same way, right? But for me, I was so beholden to this idea of like doing it fresh in my own way that I didn't even like consider that or really fully realize that when I was making my acorn. So the original one might actually even be a little wonkier technically in this part. So when it comes to that, it's like, you know, there's standard ways to do specific things. You know, most patterns will start out generally the same, like if you're, you know, doing like a rounded top part to start with, but the final product should look like its own fresh thing in my mind and thought of it anyway. And then I've said this many times in different ways, but I think my biggest tip is that part about just not being afraid to start over, not being afraid to frog and test out things, because that's how you're gonna get to that final product that you are absolutely happy with and you don't have that nagging voice in your head anymore. Like, I don't know why this baby bunny was so hard for me to get, but it took me several tries, and then I eventually got to the happy final product. Hopefully that will inspire you and put you at ease that it's okay if you have to start over, if you have to redo things. Let me know in the comments if you've made a pattern before, or if you're thinking about it, if you're trying to start one. Want to hype up my fellow pattern creators, because you got this, and it's such a fun journey. I literally love it so much, and I'm so proud of you for embarking on it. If you are, you're soon to experience the magic that it is. It's probably one of the best things I've experienced in my life, no lie. Alrighty y'all, I hope you found this video super helpful. I can't wait to see all the patterns you come up with. I love you all so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!